and welcome back. A major political storm is brewing in Nigeria after the presidential candidate of the Nigerian Democratic Congress, Peter Obi, called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to resign from office, arguing that the current administration has failed to deliver on the promises that brought it to power. The statement, which is already generating intense debate across the country, came shortly after British Prime Minister Kier Starmer announced his intention to step down following growing dissatisfaction among voters over economic difficulties and unfulfilled campaign commitments. For Peter Obi, the significance of the British political development goes beyond the resignation of a single leader. He argues that it highlights an important principle that many mature democracies attempt to uphold: accountability. According to Obi, leadership should not be merely about occupying public office. It should be about accepting responsibility when promised results failed to materialize. In his view, the willingness of political leaders to acknowledge failure and step aside when they can no longer effectively serve the public is one of the hallmarks of a healthy democracy. In a strongly worded statement released on his social media platforms, Obi reflected on the reasons behind the British Prime Minister's decision. He noted that Starmer's planned resignation followed mounting public frustration over economic stagnation, rising living costs, and what many voters view as a failure to fulfill key campaign pledges. Obi suggested that these same concerns are even more pronounced in Nigeria, where millions of citizens continue to grapple with soaring food prices, inflation, unemployment, insecurity, and declining purchasing power. The former Anambra State governor argued that Nigerians were presented with clear promises during the 2023 election campaign. Among those promises, he recalled, were commitments to improve electricity supply, strengthen the economy, tackle corruption, create jobs, and improve the overall welfare of citizens. According to Obi, the reality experienced by many Nigerians today stands in sharp contrast to those expectations. He contends that instead of witnessing meaningful improvements, many citizens believe economic conditions have become significantly more difficult since the current administration took office. Obi's criticism becomes particularly pointed when he draws attention to statements previously made by President Tinubu before assuming office. According to Obi, the president had repeatedly criticized former President Goodluck Jonathan over insecurity and economic hardship, arguing that at the time that leadership carries responsibility for the conditions experienced by citizens. Obi specifically referenced the Chibok girls' kidnapping crisis, during which opposition figures, including Tinubu, demanded greater accountability from the government of the day. The opposition leader's argument is straightforward. If previous administrations were expected to accept responsibility for insecurity, economic hardship, and governance failures, then the same standard should apply to the current administration. For Obi, accountability should not depend on political party affiliation or personal loyalty. Rather, it should be a principle that applies equally to every leader entrusted with public office. The comments are likely to resonate strongly with Nigerians who continue to face economic difficulties. Across the country, households are struggling with the rising cost of food, transportation, housing, healthcare, and education. Small businesses are facing mounting operational costs, while many Nigerians continue to express concern about unemployment and limited economic opportunities. These challenges have fueled growing public debate about the effectiveness of current policies and the direction of national leadership. Supporters of Obi argue that his call for accountability reflects the frustration felt by many citizens who expected faster progress and more visible improvements. They maintain that leaders must be judged not by promises but by outcomes. In his view, elections are contracts between politicians and the people, and failure to deliver on key commitments should carry consequences. On the other hand, supporters of President Tinubu are likely to argue that the administration inherited deeply rooted structural problems that cannot be solved overnight. They contend that major economic reforms often involved short-term pain before long-term benefits become visible. They also point to ongoing efforts by the government to establish the economy, improve infrastructure, attract investments, and implement reforms designed to strengthen public finances. However, Obi insists that accountability remains essential regardless of the challenges inherited by any administration. He argues that public office should be viewed as a sacred trust rather than an entitlement, and that leaders must be willing to accept accountability and responsibility when promises results fail to materialize. According to him, allowing political leaders to remain insulated from the consequences of poor performance risks creating a culture where public officials feel no obligation to deliver measurable results. Perhaps the most significant aspect of Obi's statement is his attempt to frame the debate beyond immediate politics. He argues that Nigeria needs a new political structure, one where leaders understand that public trust must be earned and maintained through performance. In his view, accountability is not simply about one individual or one administration. It is about building institutions and democratic traditions that encourage better governance for future generations. The call for President Tinubu's resignation is therefore likely to intensify political discussions in the months ahead, with growing public attention focused on economic conditions, insecurity, and governance outcomes. Both supporters and critics of the administration are expected to continue debating whether the government is meeting the expectations of Nigerians. What remains clear is that Peter Obi's comments have once again placed accountability, leadership, and performance at the center of Nigeria's national conversation. As economic challenges continue to affect millions of citizens, the question many Nigerians are asking is no longer simply what promises were made during the election. The question now is whether those promises are being fulfilled and who should be held responsible if they are not. As the political debate intensifies, one reality remains unavoidable. Nigerians are increasingly demanding results, not rhetoric. And in the court of public opinion, accountability is becoming one of the most powerful issues shaping the country's political future. For more updates and in-depth analysis, stay with us on News Express. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.